auch anschauen können. So, von meiner Weise habe ich jetzt die Freigabe des Bildschirms nicht aufgezeichnet, sodass nur die 166, die jetzt drin sind, die Frage beantworten können. Aber auch da habe ich eigentlich einen ganz netten Fun-Fact. Letzte Woche hatten wir 260 Teilnehmer in der Live-Schalte und etwa 4 Stunden nach dem Talk, bei dem 260 Leute anwesend waren, haben ungefähr 600 die Anwesenheitsfrage richtig beantwortet. Respekt, eure Infokanäle laufen. So, jetzt bin ich langsam doch ein bisschen nervös, weil also immer noch nicht da ist. Ich habe auch noch mal alles gecheckt. East African Time ist 1 Stunde später, als wir hier sind, im Moment gerade. Aber wir haben das. Hallo, Jennifer. So, dann vertreiben wir uns die Zeit ein bisschen chatten. Ich gerade mal, wenn ich irgendeine Mail habe, das in der Sheet geht. Okay, kann passieren. Ah, hi. Okay, können wir in diesem Namen freischalten? Yes. Yeah. Okay. So, Isaac, can you hear me? Isaac? Okay, so we already can see you. Can you hear us, Isaac? Isaac, can you hear us? I think we have a connection problem at the moment. Isaac? If you can hear me, can you just raise your hand so that I see that? Okay. That seems that, hi Isaac. Can you hear us? Can you hear me? I saw that you spoke, but I couldn't hear anything. I can't hear you. Können wir das dann muten aufheben? So, in der letzten. Ja.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, perfect. Okay, Isaac, so you can hear us? Okay, I suppose it works. It's just a little bit of time delay between Uganda and here. So I make a short presentation about you so that everybody knows who will be giving the talk today.
Yeah, I can
The name
hear
of our
you.
guest today is Isaac. Okay, thank you. So I'm just presenting you a little bit to our students. Our guest is Isaac Ssentumbwe. He's 29 years and he's a climate activist from Uganda. And he is a community mobilizer for the Rise Up movement. He has a diploma as hotel manager, and he at the moment is pursuing a bachelor's degree of arts in economics at Yambogo University in Uganda. And he started with a project which was funded by US aid in Uganda for 3 years, which was mainly focused on public health. And there he gained a lot of experience about the role of women and girls which are living in marginalized communities. And these issues are that intersectionally are related to climate change. His role in Rise Up movement, as I said, is a community mobilizer, which is meant to reach out to people and have the community conversation, pick up opinion of people and sensitize them with what should be done to mitigate effects and adapt to climate change, especially the role of women and girls. So this is just a short introduction to our guest today. I'm very proud that you will speak to us and give us your opinion. So please start. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Michael.
Okay, so please start.
All right. Greetings to you all. As Mr. Michael said, my name is Isaac Ssentumbwe, climate activist from Uganda, as well as a community women and girls face, as a result the effects of climate change. I get to what we are going to share today.
Isaac, just one moment. The connection is very, very bad at the moment. So maybe we can try. I switch off my video and you switch off of your video for the moment and give only the talk, because with picture and sound, it's not working. So we nearly understand you, don't understand you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we hear you clearly.
Okay. I think let's get started from the top. Greetings to you all, the students and the lecturers, everyone at Kane Enrich University. My name is Isaac Ssentumbwe, a climate activist from Uganda and a community mobilizer in the Rise Up movement. Today, as I said, I'm going to be taking you through the challenges, special challenges women and girls face as a result of the effects of climate change. But before we get into, or I get into what I am going to share with you today, let me talk about, something little here, about someone who inspired me personally to actively get into advocacy and see that women are really put up front. Their issues and needs are really attended to. The activities Vanessa Nakate started back in the year 2019, when she went on the streets and stood with placards with a couple of messages. Of course, it sent a big statement to everyone, be it the leaders, be it civilians, everyone. She brought up what people were silent about. She spoke for the people. She was the voice for the voiceless. She spoke for the people who couldn't stand up and really bring out what they're feeling back there in their homes, beyond just the knowing that we have prolonged droughts. We know we have landslides, heat waves, all the natural disasters we can talk about. She went insightfully into what people feel, that impact when it comes to the communities. Yeah, and in that case, I was like, oh, okay, if Vanessa is talking about this, then we need to dig into the last person. We are talking about the marginalized communities. We are talking about people who feel the impacts of climate change to the core. So that's the reason why I decided to join the movement. I decided striking, but my main focus was on fighting for the women, fighting for their rights, fighting to see that the impacts of climate change, they don't affect them, directly in the future. And today, this is how we are going to start our conversation, and hopefully we shall have a wonderful one. Are we together? So, climate change, we all know climate change affects all countries around the globe, but its impacts are not equally distributed among regions, generations, age classes, income groups, occupations, and gender. So when we talk about regions, let's talk about the continents. Let's talk about Africa. We talk about Europe. We talk about Asia. The islands. Yeah. When you talk about the generations, what generations before the 21st, century, the generation we're in right now, the effects they felt back then is not what we feel right now. Yeah. So when you talk about the age classes, everyone understands climate change in a different way. The way a primary one kid understands this, actually they totally don't understand what climate change is. It's not the way someone who has reached a high level of understanding, or a high level education, the way they can interpret and understand what climate change is. Income groups, of course, we know income inequalities are everywhere. Not that everyone receives the same amount of income month in, month out. So that is also important to be noted. We talk about genders, and this is our major focus today, the genders. And women and girls is our major focus today. It should be noted that the poor are disproportionately affected. And let's remember, the poor, these are the people who are in remote areas. These are the people who rely on farming, and this is farming where they grow food for home consumption. Maybe they get a little out of it just to buy, small, necessities at home. Maybe let me talk about soap. Let me talk about paraffin to put in their lamps. Okay, yeah. But of all these people, women account for the majority of the world's poor. I repeat, women account for the majority of the world's poor. All right? So women and girls, they suffer most when erratic weather brings droughts or floods to marginal lands, okay? Or crowded, urban areas where there are very many people, in an area. Let me talk about of the cities we know, Kampala, Wakiso. I mean, there are certain areas where people get so crowded, where you find a house is near another, where it's this is where poverty is most felt. While the existing evidence underscores the vulnerability of women to climate change, there is a wealth of evidence which underlines that women play an important role in supporting households and communities to mitigate the effects and adapt to climate change. In fact, women, this is important, women have led and continue to lead, and many of the most innovative responses to environmental challenges all over the world are contributed, by women. And a notable example we can give is our very own Vanessa Nakate, who stood on the streets to echo, to convey a message, so that we can have a livable planet, yeah, an atmosphere. Okay, yeah. So that's it. However, it is very important to keep in mind that the reason why women and girls are more vulnerable to climate change is often socially constructed. Now, this goes back to the African setting. In Africa, women specifically their status and the roles traditionally attributed to them within societies way back, even before we were born. And the fact that we have had 150 degree of conservativeness here in Africa, these things have not changed even up to now. Yeah. So, for example, in many developing countries, of course, in Africa, talk about Africa, Uganda in particular, women are predominantly responsible for, number one, food production, household water supply, energy supply for heating and cooking. So they go into the gardens to grow food. The foods I can give that we grow in Uganda, talk about cassava, talk about matoke, talk about potatoes, name it. To add on that, they go and look for water. Water, to cook this food, water, to clean up the home, the house, and the rest of the family members, to use it, and the energy supply for cooking and heating. So they also go to the forest or the bush to pick firewood so that they can come home and cook the food. So basically, that's the breakdown of the responsibilities that were inculcated into people. This is a culture thing, and I feel like if a voice comes out, to talk about this, I mean, both men and women have hands. You're getting it? If you have hands, that means you can be able to do something. You can get hands on so that something is done. But still, people rely that the conservativeness hasn't moved even a little bit. They believe a woman should produce food. They believe a woman should do the supply. They believe a woman should do the cooking all the time. Yeah. And the funny thing, some men, if the woman doesn't boil for him, water to take to the bathroom, to take a bath, that's a problem. The woman can be even chased out of the house. You're getting it. So those are some of the responsibilities that were traditionally attributed to women. Yeah. But let's go back. As climate change impacts increase, these tasks are becoming more and more difficult and time consuming. Yeah. We shall get into details of that. So climate change, therefore, tends to place a larger burden on women and girls. Additionally, women all over the world encounter greater difficulties and barriers when it comes to spectrum mobility, when it comes to basic access to education, healthcare, resources. For example, let's talk about land. Let's talk about financial resources, information and technologies, as well as, this is very important, as well as to decision-making processes at all levels. This often stands in the way of women's empowerment in general and of their potential contribution to climate change adaptation in particular. Now, let me give a simple example. In our communities here, when meetings are set, when meetings are organized, there is only one position that is left for a woman, and most of the times they debate on it whether a woman should sit there or not. Yeah, and that's being a secretary, and her role is to sit down and write minutes of the meeting. So how is this woman going to contribute to the developmental? How is she going to intervene when she's only supposed to write down minutes of the meeting? I hope you get what I'm saying. So this somehow limits them to exercise, abilities to damage investigation in particular. Okay, yeah. So introduction I could give before we get into the fact, the challenges women and girls face because of the effects of climate change. Are we together? Okay. Now we are going to single out. I'm going to single out the challenges women face due to the effects of increased epidemics. An increase in climate-related disease outbreaks will have very different impacts on women, mainly because around the world, women have less access to medical services. For example, malaria vectors, are changing their range due to climate change. And each year, please note this down, and each year, approximately 50 million women living in malaria endemic countries throughout the world become pregnant. Yeah. And an estimated 10,000 of these women and 200,000 of their infants die as a result of malaria infection during pregnancy. We all know a pregnant woman, and this is a message that is spread everywhere, because a pregnant woman tends to be in a critical condition, or she needs critical attention from the go when she conceives. Yeah. So that means if she gets the disease, or she gets the malaria, that means the baby inside is going to be denied the right to live on Earth, and also the mother, will die in the course. Reason being, their bodies tend to be weaker when the disease running throughout the year 2020 and the past years, where they encourage pregnant women to sleep under the net, or sleep under the net, because when you sleep under the net, you protect the life of the kid, of the baby, and also the life of the mother. Moreover, women's workloads increase when they have to spend more time caring for the sick. Now, the woman is already sick. Yeah. Sorry, she is pregnant. That is one workload. Yeah. There's another workload. She's sick. That's the second workload. The third one, she has to care for the sick. Now, let's understand that in Africa, actually, campaigns run here in Uganda, where they encourage men to accompany their wives to hospitals whenever they are pregnant. Yeah, whenever they are pregnant. But what happens? Some of the men don't do that. Some of the men don't do that. So that is why you see we experience a couple of maternal, deaths that happen, because everything is left for the woman. Everything is left for the woman. But why am I coming to that? Because the heat waves. Let's talk about the landslides. These waters, the waters, we know stagnant water. That's where mosquitoes, the females go, and when it bites you, you get infected. Let's understand that when these disasters happen, people move because they lose settlement. I mean, they move to other areas. Remember, they have left homes they built and they're moving in places where they are going to be gathered all together, like in camps. So that means are going to happen. They'll have one area. Remember, most of the times resources are not that available. You know, our government to in such disasters. So that's what happens. People fall sick, some die, and even the young ones do what? They die. Other epidemics we can talk about. You can talk about cholera. You can talk about, you know, dysentery, because when people gather in one place, there is a tendency of disorder, mismanagement. People don't know where to put their waste. People don't know where to, I mean, there is no organization. Everyone is coming from different. Most of the time, they have places where they go that they can ease themselves. So you find that 1,000 people are using a toilet with people are using the same. 1,000 people are using one place where they go and ease themselves. A disease like this is, you know, likely, you know, and easily bound to break out. Yeah. So increased epidemics. That's the first challenge women face due to the effects of climate change. Now let's talk about increased drought and water shortage. Women and girls in developing countries are often the primary collectors, users, managers of water for family use. Decreases in water availability will therefore jeopardize their families' livelihoods, as well as increase their workloads, and may have secondary effects such as, you know, lower school enrollment figures for girls and less opportunity for women to engage in income generating activities if they spend, you know, greater portions of their day managing water in a changing climate. Yeah. Now, in Uganda in particular, there are seasons where we have water sources which we call wells. There are times when they dry up. Now, women tend to move long distances, long journeys to fetch water. And the worst part of it all, they don't have a mode of mobility, let me say, a motor, you know, transport. They use foot. Yeah. Most of them use foot because their men use the bicycles to go and do their work. Yeah. In case provided. Yeah. So seasons where wells dry up, these women are forced to move long distances. So in case they have girls at home, they tell the girls, you know what? Don't go to school. You stay home so that you fetch water for the house. Basically do housework. Yeah. So this is what happens. It becomes tiresome because a girl won't be able to go to school if she has to take go and fetch from a distance and be back and be able to go to school. I mean, she will have to give up getting it. So that's one of the points that we can break down when it comes to the water shortage, because the distance becomes tiresome. And another unfortunate bit about water shortage, even the available water source, the water may be contaminated, because this is where people go and get water for their home use. This is where animals go so that they can have some water as well. Yeah, this is where also herdsmen, get a chance to take their animals, to have some water. So what are you going to get out of this water? Number one, the water will be contaminated. People will get diseases, die. So this will probably increase cases of people falling sick and dying. Or supply is really not appropriate. Okay. So the third challenge we can talk about is increase early child marriages and school dropouts. Now, this is the most disturbing part when it comes to the effects of climate change. Due to the impacts of climate change, girls are married off far too young, taken out of school, and subjected to violence. This is a total violation of rights, and it's a complete wastage of potential. And yet, we should know this, that investing in girls has the potential to transform the lives of communities and countries at large. I one time made a tweet, and I said, I wrote as like, when you educate a girl, you change the whole world. Yeah. But when you educate a man, you change an individual. What do I mean? This is something that is inborn. These are people who were born with the thing of sharing. In case something community, there is a couple of families. In case the person who moves out to go and share with the rest of the families, it's a woman or a girl. Men are being eaten up with ego. That's number one. Individual, success. We're getting it. But when you educate a girl, or when a woman is empowered, they push on and see that also the rest they benefit, from the good cause. So when the girls are taken out of school far too young, that means you have robbed them the right to good quality education, to acquire skills that can change their lives. I mean, you have robbed them their potential to become successful in whatever they want to do. Because let's remember, this is a generation where over and these are people who are poised to become successful engineers, successful doctors, nurses, I mean, name it. So basically, when you deny them you have in Africa, Uganda in particular, when due to the effects of climate change, yeah, you know, we base on agriculture, you know, for survival and, you know, income, to generate income. Okay, so prolonged droughts, landslides, I mean, the changing weather patterns, when it reaches a point where they don't favor crop cultivation, what will the fathers do? You know, so to decrease on the population in a home, they will sell off their daughters, number one, to decrease, so that they can have a manageable number of people to take care of. And also to gain themselves, you know, wealth for themselves, because gain wealth for themselves because they can no longer do the farming. You're getting it? They can no longer do the farming. They can no longer go to the gardens. Yeah. So when that happens, that means this girl won't be able to become what she wants to become. For example, during the USA project that happened, or that, you know, I was proud to be part of, that happened for a couple of years. When I was in Eastern Uganda, I met a young girl. The district is called Luka District. It's in eastern part of Uganda. When I met this girl, I mean, I found her, the belly was quite huge. I asked her a question, but I wasn't her. Girl, are you pregnant, or your stomach is, you know, pregnant? Then I asked her, how old are you? She told me, I am 9 years of age. Now, let's note this, that in eastern part of Uganda, the girls, they become sexually active at an early age, and the men take advantage of this. Remember, these are communities where men just wake up to drink, wake up to, you know, play games. They are not hands-on. You're getting it? They are used to women working for them, so that they find everything done at home. So when I asked her what happened, then she told me the father married her off. Yeah. Then when I asked her why, she said the father wanted to lessen on the number of people in the family. You see how sad that is? You're selling off a young, because a young girl, like, I mean, I call that is still a stage of infancy. So someone is still growing. Someone is still learning, the basics of life. Now you're putting in a huge burden on them, and that is marrying them off. Yeah, because you feel like because of climate change, you cannot longer, cultivate, no longer sell off. So you resort to selling your daughter, so that you can earn money. So climate change and in your early child marriages and school dropouts is a big problem that up to now there is a lot of work that has to be done so that the problem, is addressed. Okay. Let's go. Object. What the impacts of climate change affect every country on every continent? They don't do it equally. Women are already burdened by poverty and oppression, in harshest consequences, while having the least, ability to cope. Their struggle to earn a living, feed their families, and create stable homes is made more difficult every day as the climate crisis continues. So, if a woman can't involve in an income generating, activity so that she can earn, if she can't, cultivate food, maybe to feed a family or to sell and get some money out of it to buy a few essentials at home, this will become a burden to her. The increased frequency and intensity of extreme weather events like droughts, the prolonged droughts, landslides, they threaten their lives in these frontline communities, driving these women and their children from their homes and jeopardizing food sources and livelihoods. And all these effects increase likelihood of more conflict, hunger, and poverty. In Karamoja district, there have been a couple of cases where, these are districts which have prolonged droughts. They feed on the milk that comes from the cows. In case they want, this is what happens because of the effects of the resources that these people can utilize so that they can feed their families, they get depleted. So what happens? They tend to cross to other territories. Remember, in Africa here, the thing of territory is very, very, very crucial. I mean, critical. You can't step from one territory and go to another territory and you think you will have a conducive atmosphere there. There are a lot of questions that you are going to be asked. Why? So these people, when they cross to the other territories, they cross there fetching for food or maybe that will be income generating. So what will happen? They will between tribes in the same region where you're not supposed to cross to go into another region. But why do they do that? Because of the effects of climate change. In their home area, there is nothing left that they can rely on for survival. So what they have to do is to cross. And what happens when they cross? Conflicts. And what comes of conflict? Sometimes death, in case they are not pushed back to go back where they came from. So in case they are pushed back to go where they came from, that means they are going to die of hunger and poverty. And the most affected, these are women, because most of them, they move with their kids on the back. One woman may have like 3 or 4 kids, one may even be breastfeeding. You get what I'm saying? So increased abject poverty is indeed a special challenge due to the effects of climate change, and it affects this gender to the core, to the extent that some women decide to take care of their lives because they can't keep up with the pressure. So another challenge is gender inequality. Women all over the world encounter difficulties and barriers when it comes to basic access to education, healthcare, as I talked about in the introduction, land, financial resources, information and technology, as well as decision making at all levels. As I said, this often stands in the way of women's empowerment in general and their potential contribution to climate change adaptation and mitigation in particular. Now, we still have cultures here where women are supposed to sit home, cook food. The girls are supposed to get married. So that means there is already a sense of inequality felt because you have denied these women and girls the right to quality, education, to acquire skills so that they can be also able to identify who they are. Because if you don't know who you are, then you lose a sense of, a doctor, you become a teacher, you become a teacher. Yeah. So when they are granted no access to denied their rights, as women. And let's talk about healthcare. There are a lot of women in Uganda in particular, women, when it comes to healthcare, they suffer. That is why we witness a lot of child deaths, we experience, they suffer most. Why? Because number one, the fact that they don't have any activity they engage themselves in to make some money, to go to hospitals, pay up so that they can be treated, that means their lives are always in danger. Okay? There are hospitals, and unfortunately enough, these are government health centers. These are health centers where women have to go and receive medicine for free. We're getting it. So, in case the woman goes to the hospital or a health center and she doesn't have money, that means to purchase medicine, that means she's going to lose her life. And in case she is pregnant, that means even the baby inside is going to be denied the right, of living here. So that also is a problem in its way that affects women. Okay. Let's talk about resources. Women in Uganda, in particular, because this is where I live, besides Kampala, maybe the city in particular, where we have those who have been able to access education, where they have jobs, they can earn some good money, and by themselves, properties. But let's talk about the marginalized communities. Let's talk about the remote areas where the effects of climate change are faced, where women are not allowed to acquire land. Even a man knowing that a woman has a bank account, it is a problem. We go to it. So all these things are felt to the core. I mean, the women feel it to the core. They are denied access to the most important things in life. And in that way, there is no way you can say a woman is empowered. The only way she can show her potential is when she can be able to go and acquire a skill, have access to information, have access to the different training levels of technology, so that she can be able to change the world and she can be able to mitigate the effects and adapt to climate change. Another point, the challenge is women, girls are subjected to violence. What violence am I talking about? I talk about rape, I talk about defilement, to the underage. I talk about hate, sex speech. And girls, remember, for example, landslides happened in Bududa. People were displaced. They were taken to camps. So what happens? Remember, these are people coming from different angles, of living. People have different characters. These are settlements that have mannered, be it old men, young boys. Some may be, using things that are inappropriate because they feel they make them feel better. So what happens in camps? This is what happens. In case this will happen, in case there is a girl or girls in the same camp. Remember, people are coming from different, walks of life. You're getting it. You don't know who you're living with. This is someone who is coming 400, 50 kilometers away, from each other. You don't know this person. And remember, girls, they tend to be, what's the right word I can use? Anyway, girls, they tend to be, should I say, enticing when they grow up? No, not enticing. The boys tend to get interested, or the older men tend to be interested. Remember, these are settlements where even people who don't have, wives or children settle in. So what will happen? Since people are living in a camp where there are a lot of people, such cases are likely to arise. Rape. Guy will find a woman or a girl, tell I want this, the woman will say no, the plot, and boom, something happens. Yeah, the woman is raped. Without our consent. Yeah, defilement. Going for the young girls, in the sense of satisfying, themselves in the way they want. Hate speech, in case a man is interested in a woman, yeah, and the woman says no, a man will say something, unpleasant about her body, outlook or outshape. So such cases of violence happen, and mostly plan maybe to get another area for them so that they can start life all over. Okay. All right. Women's rights. Now, Project Drawdown listed that educating a girl child and family planning are the prime measures if you want to reduce temperatures to 1.5. That is very clear. But this is what happens. The unpleasant cultural norms and practices, and here I'm talking about the female genital mutilation, deny women the rightful ownership of their bodies. Now, we all know that when the population grows, that means people will be many, a lot of fuel will be needed, a lot of trees will be cut down, but it doesn't mean that we should prohibit people from having children. And talking about women in particular, or girls. So what am I talking about here? Such practices that are done to stop women from having children is a total violation against women. Okay? That's why I still go back to the point of empowering them. Let them have access, basic access, to education, so that they are informed. They can take care of their families. They can know how many children they can have in their families. They can also advise their fellow women, how many members they should have in their family, but not stopping them from totally having. So such uncouth and unpleasant culture norms tend to rob women the right of living as females. And that's a very important point to look at. Then lastly, and a primary challenge we can talk about is loss of species. Women often rely on crop diversity to accommodate, climatic variability. But because of constant temperature change, this will reduce agro, biodiversity and traditional medicine options, creating potential impacts on food security. That means they won't have the authentic, they won't know, due to the changing patterns. Remember, certain foods grow basing on a certain, time. So when it's going to be a prolonged drought, that will bring, a hindrance. Okay, that means women won't be able to grow food. They won't be, or they will grow food at a wrong time. That means it won't come out as they want, and the medicine won't be, acquired in the right way. So that means there will be, food, and there will be, a high degree of diseases in the family. So lastly, I'm going to point out one secondary factor: the poor menstrual hygiene. You may ask yourselves, why is Isaac talking about poor menstrual hygiene? Now, this is what happens when people move from, due to the effects of climate change. Of course, people are displaced. Women tend to move with their family, and this family will have girls. Girls, they keep on growing, during the movements. And this is what happens. If there is poverty, that means woman won't be able to access the sanitary towel that can be used to accommodate, the issue of menstrual hygiene. Again, for example, there is an activity that happened way back in 2017. Plan started it, and it has been running. Plan International, but Plan Uganda started it, and it was a very successful one. So this is what happened. This is an event that happened when I was in Lira district. I meet a girl. I give her a pack of sanitary towel. Then I asked her. Actually, she didn't even know English, and I had to get an interpreter so that we can communicate. Then I asked her, "What have I given you?" She told me, "You have given me a packet of biscuits." I mean, I laughed. I wasn't mocking her, but I laughed. Then I told the interpreter, "Tell her that is a sanitary towel. Tell her in your language." Then I asked her, "What have you been using?" She told me, "Mommy gets for me, sponges, puts them together, and I stay with it the long day. I only have one that I use." I mean, this was so devastating. And when I asked her, where are you coming from? She told me, we came from such and such a place. We came here so that we can have, a livable atmosphere, because where we were, we couldn't, access food and water. What are we talking about? The effects of climate change. People are moving areas, they're moving with their kids. They're moving their kids are not informed. They don't know what happens. They don't know how to take care of their menstrual hygiene. And this is a matter that the government has not, comprehensively addressed. Support groups from out are the ones that come and they're like, okay, let's address the issue. And they always target the areas that are affected, to the core when it comes to the effects of climate change. So the challenge of poor menstrual hygiene, is something that arises because of the effects of climate change, because the mothers, they're poor, they don't have the money to buy sanitaries for their kids, they don't have the money to take their kids to school, so that they know they have the basic, knowledge and information on how to handle such cases, or they don't even have the resources that can nearly, come up, across, a well presented, sanitary towel. Okay, so that's the last, special challenge that I can give you when it comes to the effects, caused, by the effects of climate change. So after looking at the challenges the women face, of course, we have to talk about the solutions, and how to adapt and mitigate effects and adapt to climate change, so that women can have the ability to cope. So around the world, people are experiencing both subtle and stark effects of climate change, gradually shifting weather patterns, rising sea levels, and more extreme weather events are devastating evidence of both a rapidly changing climate and an urgent need for solutions. Now, solution number one, women and girls should not be presented as victims. They are powerful agents of change, and their leadership is essential. This is partly due to their often deeper understanding and their immediate environment, because of their experience in managing natural resources. We talk about water, talk about natural resources, forests, biodiversity, and soil, as well as their involvement in climate-sensitive activities, such as farming in most developing countries. So this points it out clear that women should be looked at as a strong agent when it comes to issues of climate change, the effects. So when it comes to mitigation of effects and adapting to climate change, they have everything, because they are the frontliners. They face it. They face everything. Poverty, talk about epidemics, talk about loss of species, talk about violence. I mean, they face every bad thing that comes out of climate change. So they should not be presented as victims. They should be presented as agents of change and leadership, because they have the authentic knowledge of how everything can be put together so that we can have a livable planet. Okay. Solution number 2. The complementarity of men and women's knowledge, skills, and capabilities effective and sustainable adaptation and mitigation initiatives, answering specific needs, ensuring that they benefit and contribute equally to the development process. Now, since the women are always the front, they're always at the front line when it comes to the effects of climate change. They have everything. They know everything. They know what it takes. So if this knowledge is put together with the men, because in Africa, we believe the men are always the head, of everything. If their skills are put together, that means the develop when it comes to we'll have a successful run, because these are two brains. This is a brain that is always on the court. This is a brain that feels the effects of climate change. This is the women are the ones that know what it takes to live in such a condition. So if they are being put together, that means we shall have substantial solutions of how the effects can be mitigated and adaptation to climate change can be achieved. Solution number 3, greater attention should be paid to the special rights and needs of women, girls, on both developmental and humanitarian, interventions, so as to address issues such as basic quality education, healthcare, online to climate and mitigation in particular. Solution number 4, in the long term, only immediate and continued efforts to reduce global emissions will save the poor, talk about the women, from climate impacts. And this to be successful, it should be noted that governments should design mitigation policies so that they protect and even benefit the poor women. And action can be taken to reduce the burden of policies that would impose new costs, such as strengthening social protection and assistance. So as I conclude, as we know, climate change has devastating effects when it comes to our communities, but the actions taken by people, I'm talking about women in particular, in hard-hit regions every day to overcome the burdens of climate crisis, are just as vital as widespread solutions. And the steps we take now as a global community, including supporting those on the front lines who are braving the challenge, will determine our resilience for the future. Thank you so much for listening.
So, Thank you very much, Isaac, for this very interesting talk. Well, I decided to collect the questions of the students here because we have a bit of a net problem. And so if too many people open their microphones, we might not get through with the questions. So I also switch off my video again and just ask you the first question of Katja. Do you know anyone who has been directly affected by the aftermath of climate change? And how was this person affected? And do you have any personal relationship to that subject? This was the first question.
If I may make a recap, I remember a notable example I gave is a girl I met in eastern Uganda in a district called Luka district, who got pregnant, of course, married off by her father. She got pregnant at 9 years of age. This was a time when I was participating in the USAID program. So this is what happened. We collected, because I asked her, do you know of any of your other friends that are in the same situation? She told me yes. We collected a couple of them, but I may not have the information right now because we were working under someone and they decided to archive the information with them. But what we know, the girls were taken care of, because girls at such age, they tend to fall victims when it comes to maternal deaths, because their bodies are not ready to conceive, to bear children. So they were attached, to a village health team so that they can monitor them until the day they are able to bring another life, onto earth. So what we did, we took information, their names, where they live, and we attached them to a village health team and a particular health center in their area community where they can always go and pick medication at all time. Remember, this was a project that was funded by USAID. That means it handled public health. Medicine was always, provided at the health centers, since it was something that a project that was fully funded. So for that case, a notable example I could give is that, yeah, she was taken care of. That's what I know. By the time we left, she was well, and they were skilled. They were given hands-on skills, and the hands-on skills that they give to girls in such areas, they always go for nursing, or they go for tailoring skills so that they can be able to earn something and take care of their children, since even the men that make them pregnant cannot even raise a penny to take care of their family, because most of the money they get, they spend it in drinking. They don't work. Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much. And before reading the next question, I want to give you the thanks of a lot of people. This is just one person who wrote this. She really wants to thank you for the presentation and for bringing the awareness to this very important aspects. And I got several messages of this kind. So, and also from my side, thank you very much for bringing awareness about these topics. to us. And connected to this, I have one question, which was already discussed a lot in the chat here, but I also wanted to pass it to you. Nish wrote, are most of the issues, well, the issues you talked about, really due to climate change? Or may they be solved by water and electricity infrastructure? Well, I suppose by improvement of water and electricity infrastructure. And the main discussion was about if these problems can be tangled one after the other, or if they are such intermingled that they should be solved at the same time. And I think we discussed already a lot in the chat about it, but I also like to hear your opinion about this question.
Come again, Michael. It was a little bit breaking.
Okay. So if many of these aspects you talked about are really due to climate change in the first order, or if they can be solved by improvement of water and electricity infrastructure within the country. And I said this was already discussed, and also Vanessa wrote a few answers to that question, but I want to hear your opinion. Is it really possible to tackle one problem after the other, or do we need an excess where all these problems are tried at least to be solved at a time?
Okay. To win a battle, you need an organized action plan. That is very important. Number one, we have to change our perception, the way we understand things. Now, I'll go back to the issue of empowerment. Suppose we don't leave this gender out, the women. Oh, suppose we didn't leave it out. Suppose that complementarity with men was secured from way back, we wouldn't have had all these problems, because women care. Women care about everything. Now I'm talking about the African setting, yeah, before I go globally. Women care about everything. So we need to change our perception and understand that this fight, to have substantial solutions to mitigate the effects and adapt to climate change, we need each other. Look, we say that women are the ones on the front lines. That means they understand everything. So we should break away the thing of victimizing them. Rather, we have to bring them close, bring them close. Put them, involve them in those developmental interventions, and and the humanitarian interventions, so that before we run into improvement of infrastructure and electricity, we have already done our homework well. We have aligned the relationship straight between both the genders. We are on the same page, because you cannot have, okay, you're going to have electricity and infrastructure, well, it's going to be, put in place. But remember, this can also fail in a way, because you cannot have an icing on a cake when inside it's half-baked. That means individuals have to be checked. We have to check ourselves. We need to first work on our perceptions. We need to first work on how we perceive climate change. We need to know that it is real. We need to know that we need to involve women so that they participate, in discussions, so that we can have solutions to this problem. We need to know that this is something that where we have no time left, we have to act now. And it's really unfortunate that our leaders, they have not taken time to really address this issue. Yeah, they sit in board meetings, they don't unmask. Unmasking, I'm talking about reaching out to the real people, understanding the problem, bringing it on table, and finances released. So our participation has to be checked so that all individuals are together in the fight to see that the solutions, to mitigate the effects of climate change and adaptation is achieved. Thank you.
So, okay, this was the last question which I had. Oh, sorry, there's one question more. Oh, yes, what do you think? How can we change this role model, especially in areas where those role models are very strong and being a woman means to be meaningless? How can we empower women effectively? This is a question from Lena Richter.
Okay. First of all, empowerment is the best gift you could ever give a woman or a girl. All women need is to be informed. It is so sad that in some marginalized communities or remote areas where the effects of climate change, hit hard, a girl is born and she grows up knowing, when she has already digested it in her head that she's supposed to be home, do housework, grow up, and get married off. Okay, so this is the point. We need, first of all, to put in place a lot of programs. And this is something where I call upon our leaders, government, I call upon the support groups, so that we see that in these communities, our main focus is women empowerment. How do they acquire skills? They need, to go to school. They need to, because women, when they go to school, their opportunities are open. And when the opportunities open, that means they pass on to the others. That means the world will change. So it goes back to drawing down programs where women empowerment is the primary thing that we look at. Whether, programs where they're given hands-on skills, name them, tailoring, farming, those who do professional farming, those who want to be teachers, because most of them in those schools, they're primary teachers, nursery teachers, and that is something that can be provided, for them. And also when they go for, commercial farming, they can make some money, out of it, and they can be able to take care of their families. I mean, this is a sustainable solution that I can put, across. They need education. They need to be educated. When you educate a woman, that means you have educated the entire community, the entire world. So they need to be educated so that we can see a change. And women, men won't have, they won't be discriminated. That means when a woman is educated, they can also sit in positions where, men sit. They when it comes to income, they can match with the incomes of men. So it goes back to being receiving, quality education, and to cut the chase, empower them, to give them that substantial empowerment that can really change their lives.
Okay, so thank you very much again. This was very informative, and we are very proud of having you here talking to us about these problems. I would like to, well, everybody is clapping now, thank you. I would like to close this session, but I would ask you to stay a little longer to talk with us, and maybe Vanessa also, if she hears me, so we can thank you once again, eye to eye. Maybe this is possible if not so many participants are here. So thank you again. And well, I made a recording of this, and I hope that many students will hear your presentation afterwards. We have a channel where all the talks from this lecture series will be presented. And due to some practical courses, many students cannot attend at the time when the talks start, but 1 or 2 or 3 hours afterwards, they will hear what you said. And so this message will be spread over a much larger audience than you had now. We had in the beginning 166 participants. Normally, in the end, there are around about 1,000 students who have heard, or not only students who have heard the talks and listened to the talks. So I think this will be spread much more. So once again, thank you very much. And I switch also on my video now to thank you. And well, I think all of us were very impressed by your talk, and you gave us really some new information we don't have here. And I hope we stay in contact, and I hope you're well. Thanks.
Thank you to Michael for this opportunity. To be honest, it has been my first like this. I was, quite nervous at the start, but I gained, the confidence after 3 or 4 minutes, and I got to it, and I'm glad that you have dearly appreciated my presentation, and I hope it will be rest of the students, so that they can know, they can know what is happening in other parts when it comes to the globe. Yeah. So I'm very, very, very happy. Yeah, I'm very happy. Just know, being my first time, it has really been a pleasure. Thanks to Vanessa Nakate for aligning me to this great, event. She's an inspiration, and as our leader in Rise Up Movement Africa, look, yeah. Thank you so much, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vanessa. And let me take the
You're welcome.
Oh, thank you. Let me take the opportunity to present you Daniela. Daniela and I are organizing this lecture series together, so normally you won't see her. Okay, I switch off my micro so she can say.
Hi, Isaac.
Hi, Daniela.
Thank you so much for this interesting talk. Really.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And Vanessa also for being with us and answering questions in the chat.
You're welcome, Daniela. Thank you for giving Rise Up Movement the opportunity to speak to all of you.
I think it's the other way around. We have to learn so much about other continents and other cultures. So it's a big opportunity for us to have you with us.
Thank you too, Daniela.
So I hope we stay in touch. Maybe we can meet one day in person when this pandemic is over. Who knows?
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
So I turn off my micro again because.
Okay, then. So thank you very much. And I close the session for today. Have a great day and a great week. And while we stay in contact and stay safe. And you also, Vanessa, thank you for all you did. Stay safe.
Thank you. Bye.